I have lost 11 kilos of body weight in these last 4 months. But has it affected my strength negatively? Or perhaps positively? Or somewhere in between? I just had my hardest week of training in a long time. Sort of a peak week where I went all out on all of my exercises, doing 80 sets total, most of it being compound exercises, and leaving no reps in the tank on any of those sets. If I had the choice to either train this hard all the time or not train at all, I wouldn't be training at all. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, I train harder than that all the time. And to that, I say, okay, good for you. You have a very large PP. Big boy. Well done. Now we're gonna go through this week of training, not in a chronological order, but exercise by exercise, from what I consider to be my best accomplishments to my less impressive accomplishments. And we will see how my strength levels are after losing all this body weight. Unfortunately, I won't be going through certain machine exercises like leg curls or vertical pulls or machine flies, because I've been working out at various different gyms for the past month, and the difficulty varies too much between different machines of the same exercise. For example, a leg curl done with 40 kilos in one gym might feel exactly the same as 60 kilos in another one. So while I would like to share my progress on exercises like that, there really is no point, because you can't make any objective remarks about them. Even I don't really know. Even the cables have felt a lot different at different facilities. For example, cable pushdowns and curls with 70 kilos in one gym feel the same as with 60 kilos in another one. If I end up doing my next mesocycle of training, so 4 to 5 weeks in these same facilities, then I can make more direct comparisons. But not now. Anyway, let's begin the analysis, starting with my best performances and moving down to the less impressive ones. Starting off with the stiff-legged deadlift, this was my best performance of the entire week, being an all-time PR. I have done 3 sets of 10 with 120 kilos before, but my rest periods back then were 5 minutes each, now they were 3 minutes each. Especially on free weight lower body exercises for high reps, it is very mentally and physically difficult to go all the way to RPE 10. But very satisfying afterwards. Here's my last rep of this first set. You can really see me grind it out. Like I said, there were no reps left in the tank on any set this week. Speaking of free weight lower body exercises, high bar squat was my second best performance this week. I am hesitant to say this was an all-time PR because I did this same weight for 10, 7, 6 and 5 early on in this cut. But here is where it gets a little bit tricky. Since then I've lost about 5 centimeters or 2 inches off of both of my thighs, which means that my range of motion is longer before my thighs bump into my calves. Additionally, back then my rest periods were 5 minutes each, now they were about 3 to 4 minutes each. Just enough that I wasn't out of breath when I went on to the next set. Whether or not this was an all-time PR, it was definitely a strength to body weight ratio PR, and something I was and am very happy about. The next 4 lifts that I'm gonna show are all pretty much equal in terms of how happy I am about them as accomplishments or PRs, but here is dumbbell bench press. I did them with the 35s for 13, 9, 8 and 7. I have done the 32 and halves for 13, 9 and 8 before, so this is objectively a PR. Furthermore, I am taking these deeper than I have taken them before, so that definitely adds to the PR-ness of this performance. Next up, the deficit push-up. And even though I say this myself, this setup for it is genius and godlike. Allows you to go really deep, get a great chest pump, and doesn't hurt your shoulders at all. This is coming from someone who has a very frail left shoulder. The only downside is that you don't always have 3 boxes nearby each other, and you can only really do this with 25 kilos added if you're doing these alone, as it is very difficult to get 2 plates on your back by yourself. But if you can go through all of that, this might actually be my favorite chest exercise of all time. Also, this is my best performance on these of all time, especially considering the range of motion I'm doing here. Then we have hack squats. I really wanted to include this here, even though different hack squat machines have very differing resistance curves. This one was definitely on the smoother side, but considering all the experience I have with different hack squat machines, I am pretty confident to say that this is at least very close to my best performance of all time. Next up is the chin up. really doing these clean and with good control, I was still able to get 14 on the first set, although just barely, then 9, 8 and 7. It's hard to say if this is an all-time PR or not, considering my body weight is lower than it has been in a few years. But I certainly haven't performed reps like these across 4 sets with this clean of a form in a long time. These remaining exercises will be kind of in the category of performances. The dumbbell row, for example, is a completely new lift for me. I have always done these with one arm at a time, and all I can really say is that they feel great, and I did improve on them across the 4 weeks that I have been performing them. Going from the 25 kilo dumbbells all the way to 32.5, keeping pretty good form, but the last couple reps always feel like I'm cheating a little bit. It's very difficult to draw the line on rows in my opinion. And right after the dumbbell row we have the barbell row. I kinda hate this exercise and love it at the same time. I love it because it feels really great. I hate it because even a little bit of cheating affects your performance a lot. But here I'm trying to keep a good form. The last rep is a little bit botched, but hey, that's how it goes when you're training until technical failure. Here's the feet up bench press. I haven't really done this exercise before. I have done the Larsen press, which is basically feet up bench press using a small pause at the bottom, which I did for 8 reps with 100 kilos when I was at a higher body weight. So basically the same weight and same reps as now, but with a short pause at the bottom. However, considering I've lost about 5 centimeters or 2 inches off of my chest circumference, the range of motion on these is definitely longer than it was back then. Not my best performance of all time, but definitely not anything I'm sad about either. In the end, have I lost strength by losing 11 kilos of body weight? Well, yes and no. If I tried low bar squatting or bench pressing for a 1 rep max or even a 5 rep max, I do think my performance would be quite a bit worse than it was 5 months ago, but that is to be expected when you're losing body weight, and thus your leverages get worse because your range of motion becomes longer. On the other hand, I have maintained or gained volume strength. Strength across multiple sets, especially for higher reps, which is something you should care much more about if your goal is muscle building or muscle maintenance. The phenomenon of losing a lot of body weight 1 week and then losing only a little bit the next week seems to be becoming a tradition for me at this point. My average weight was only 0.1 kilos lower this week than the previous, and my calories were the highest so far, about 3,000 per day. Though my maintenance should be 3,500 calories per day, so that's still a daily deficit of 500 calories. I had the highest amount of weekly steps I've ever had on this cut so far, or ever in my life so far, 16,500 per day. It has been 16 weeks since I started losing weight, and this cut is now officially tied as the longest one I've ever done in my life. When it comes to losing weight, especially lots of it, there is nothing more important than the passage of time. I have set up certain habits like ways of eating, ways of being active, ways of encouraging myself and motivating myself, and set up my environment in a way that doing all those things is as easy as possible, that at this point, even after doing this for 16 weeks straight, maintaining this lifestyle is not difficult at all. Sure, there are some days that are tougher than others, sometimes several of them straight, but it's okay if you eat a little bit more on those days. In fact, I would say it's good to occasionally go easier on yourself, and it is also okay to make a bad choice here and there, as long as you keep making mostly good choices over a long period of time. Most people fail because they try to be overly restrictive and perfect, and once they make one bad choice, it leads to more and more of them, becoming a snowball effect and a total crash and burn. So find what works for you and keep milking the shit out of that. Anyway, there is my pep talk of the week featuring nature scenery. Hey guys, it's me reporting in real time on Sunday morning. I am beat up from this past month of training progression, especially this last week where I went all out. But I am happy to report that next week is going to be an actual true deload week. I haven't had one in 4 or 5 months, so the entire duration of this cut. I sometimes have trouble taking light weeks. But now I feel like I really need one. The protocol is going to be only doing 2 sets per exercise, leaving at least 5 reps in the tank every set, not allowing for any rep slowdown, especially not grinding. The purpose is to let my body and especially joints to recover,
Additionally, I'll be eating at maintenance calories for the entire duration of the deload week to further let my body recover and to not risk losing any precious muscle mass. Really looking forward to this, but it's all coming next week. I'll be reporting more on it then.